Hello. Welcome to June's TBR. June, what on earth? I just finished recording a little snippet for my reading wrap-up vlog for May, where I talked about this gorgeous beast. Spoiler alert for that video, which will come out in a few weeks. I may cry a little bit while I talk about this book. It's so good. It's so good. So, unabashedly, unashamed plug for what is one of my favorite books that I've read in a very, very long time. Hi, Lola. You bored? This is going to be a small TBR, smaller than my normal TBR, because I'm going to spend June doing this reset. I have all of these books on my April and May TBRs that I haven't gotten to yet, and I'm going to prioritize those, but I do have 4 books that I'd like to add, and I, of course, have my Librarian Vs Librarian yearly knockout fight TBR to talk about today. So I am going to be reading, I'm going to move forward with my next Sophie Kinsella. This is one of my favorite Sophie Kinsellas. This is The Wedding Night, and it's just really fun and lighthearted. There's this woman, she's been dating this guy, she's sure he's about to propose, but when he lets her know that he has something big to ask her, he's really just asking her if she'd like to go on an international trip, and so she gets very upset. Things kind of fall apart, and she reconnects with an old flame, and they decide that no more messing around, no more like dating, being sad, coming back together, whatever. They're just going to get married. And that's a hard decision because they haven't seen each other in a long time. They haven't been together. They're different people. And now they're suddenly like together. And it's just really fun. It's fun. All Sophie Kinsella is fun. I'm going to read The Roads We Follow. This is a cross-country road trip, a secretive box of journals, an unforgettable summer romance. So just something light to move me forward, because as you're about to see, all, because of what I asked for, all of my Librarian Vs Librarian books are very dark. So I did strategically pick some things that were kind of palate cleanser-ish. And this is one of them. So this is by Nicole Deese. I've never read anything by Nicole Deese before, but this is a Christian romance author, and I have seen a lot of people talk about her, both Christian and non-Christian, talk about her books and really enjoy them. And it did win the Christie Award, or the author won the Christie Award. And so I'm going to give it a try and see how it feels. You know, at the very least, it will be just what I wanted when I picked it, which is that palate cleanser of a book. As the youngest daughter of a country music legend, Reagan Farrow longs to establish an identity away from the spotlight and publish her small-town romance under a pen name. But after her dream is dashed, when she won't exploit her mother's fame to further her own career, that's a weird sentence, she hears a rumor from a reliable source regarding a tell-all being written about the Farrow family. That was a very long, weird, not grammatical sentence. I'm going to try not to be judgy. Making matters worse, the unknown author has gone to great lengths to remain anonymous until publication. Reagan chooses to keep the tale-all a secret from her scandal-leery sisters as they embark on a 2-week cross-country road trip. That's the part I'm looking for, that road trip. At their mother's request, and makes it her mission to expose the identity of the author behind the unsanctioned biography. But all is complicated when she discovers their hired bus driver, Micah Davenport, has a hidden agenda of his own, one involving both of their mothers and an old box of journals. As they rely on each other to find the answers they seek, the surprising revelations they unearth will lead them down an unexpected road of love and reconciliation. I think it's not unexpected. I think we all expect it. It's what I'm here for. Again, not expecting great things from that. I'm just wanting like the palate cleanser. I'm really excited about this one. This is the new A.J. Jacobs, the author of The Year of Living Biblically. He always does these like experimental social things where he goes all into something. Like he tried to learn all the things. He tried to live exactly as the Old Testament tells you to live, and now he's going to see if you can actually live out the Constitution. So The Year of Living Constitutionally, one man's humble quest to follow the Constitution's original meaning. These are insightful, funny, jaw-dropping. I love them so much. I am very, very much looking forward to it. It's taking all of my restraint not to just dive into that one right now. And then finally, we have The Housekeepers by Alex Hay. This is a kind of heist book, kind of. I'm not super into heist books, but this is got like an upstairs, downstairs kind of theme to it. I think the main housekeeper gets let go or fired. I don't know what the time period is on this. I feel like it must be turn of the century, but it might be present day. It says heist of the century. I'm not sure what the time period is on this. But anyway, it might be contemporary, it might be historical, I'm not sure. The housekeeper is let go, and she, without good reason, and she decides that she's going to take her employers down a notch. So she plans the biggest heist of the century and gets all of the people who work downstairs to help her pull it off. And I don't know. I don't know why I'm drawn to it. I finally got my hands on a used copy from my local library and gonna dive into it. It sounds, again, like a palate cleanser. So that's what I'm gonna read, as well as anything that's still unread from April and May. And Librarian versus Librarian. It's one of the most wonderful times of the year. So if you've never watched any of my Librarian versus Librarian content, every year for the past, I think this might be my fourth year, every year for the past 4 years, and into the foreseeable future, because I love this so much. I fill out a request with my local libraries. So I live in a place where I am blessed to have access to 2 different public library systems. I have my county library system and I have my city library system. And they are incredibly different entities serving very different populations. The county one, I live in the largest county in the state, and it serves just such a hugely diverse population. The city one is really just focused on the city. And the city is a very different, it's a more niche population with more niche interests, more or less diverse interests. And so it really caters to a very particular kind of reader, whereas the county one focuses on a much larger variety of a reader. And so the librarians deal very differently with these requests. I give the same exact request to both libraries, word for word, exactly the same each year. For the past few years, like the first year I did this, I think I requested, the first year I did this, I requested retellings or adaptations or pieces that books that honored some of my favorite classics. So I read retellings of Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights and The Great Gatsby, Dracula, Frankenstein. And that was a really, really fun year. The couple of years after that, I have requested lighthearted reads. I was going through a move, my dog died, like lots of things happened, and I really needed happy, light reads. And then last year, I was in my decadent reading era. I just was like reading what felt good. And so again, I asked for kind of fluff. But it was starting to get a little bit more serious again. So I asked for books that felt good, but that focused like on a family sort of setting, like a nuclear family sort of setting. And so I ended up with some dark reads there, some really dark reads, but also a lot of fluff. This year, I went a totally different direction. I was inspired by a video that Katie from Books and Things put out months ago. I don't even know when she put it out. If editing me remembers, I will link it down in the description box. But she put out a video kind of in conjunction with, I think, the paperback release of her book, her first book. She's got her second one coming out soon, but the first book that she's published, The Secrets of Heartwood Hall. And it was a stack of books. It was book recommendations for people who love books about women or families that relocate to a dark and scary home for a particular purpose where things then start to fall apart. Things get mysterious. Think Jane Eyre. Think Jane Eyre. You are this person or this family that arrives unknowingly at this destination, and this destination then becomes its own character in the book, its own entity, and unexplained things are happening. Sometimes in those books, it turns out that they are completely explainable things, and sometimes it turns out to be hauntings. You don't know. You're reading, right? That's all. And so I'd already read all of the books that she recommended because apparently this is one of my favorite things to read about. I had never laid my finger on that before, but it absolutely is one of my very favorite stories to read variations of. So that's what I asked for. I asked for recommendations of books where a female or a family arrive at a destination and that destination then becomes sinister in some way, shape, or form, or appears to become sinister in some way, shape, or form. Now, apparently I've read almost every book of interest to me within this category because normally I have like 10 books per library. I'm glad I don't have 10 books per library this time. This time I only have 4 books per library. That worked for me because although they recommended like 10 to 15, each library gave me 10 to 15 recommendations, there were only 4 to 6 that I had not read before, and one of those is brand new. So, it was harder for me to find or to choose books this time because from the recommendations, because I've just read so many in this. It's not a genre, it's not really a trope, but in this vein. So I'm going to read 4 books from my county library and 4 books from my city library that were recommended to me by librarians at both of those libraries, and see which stack wins, which stack gets the highest average rating. So first we have this is the stack from my county. This is the stack from my county. All right, so first we have The Misbegotten by Catherine Webb. It says Dark Truths and Beautiful Lies. I picked this up from Better World Books. Okay, so this sounds exactly up my alley. This is exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. It says Bath, 1821. Set a thing in the 1820s and I'm there. Rachel Crofton escapes her unhappy employment as a governess. I love governesses. By marrying a self-made businessman, but her new life soon takes an unexpected turn. Reclusive Jonathan Allen is a man tormented by the disappearance of his childhood sweetheart, Alice. Starling is the name of a person. Was a foundling child and is now a servant. She's convinced that Alice, the woman she loved as a sister, was stolen from her. Did Alice run away, or did something altogether more sinister occur? As Starling tries to expose the lies behind Bath's immaculate facades, others want only to forget and will go to extreme lengths to do so. And the courage both Rachel and Starling need to bring these truths to light will come at a very high price. It's not quite what I asked for, but it's close. It's close. The next one, they recommended to me before it had even been released. So I went and I read about it and I was like, yeah, that sounds like my thing anyway. So I did a pre-order. This is the only one of these. I own all of them now, but it's the only one that I bought at full price. And that is The Library Thief by Kuchenga Shinye. I'm not sure how to say that name, but let's have a look at this. This was just released this month in May. So it says the library is under lock and key, but its secrets can't be contained. 1896. After he brought her home from Jamaica as a baby, Florence's father had her hair hot combed to make her look like the other girls. But as a young woman, Florence is not so easy to tame, and when she brings scandal to his door, the bookbinder throws her onto the streets of Manchester. Intercepting her father's latest commission, Florence talks her way into the forbidding Rose Hall to restore its rare books. Lord Francis Belfield's library is old and full of secrets, but none so intriguing as the whispers about his late wife. So there's so much Jane Eyre in this. Evocative, arresting, and tightly plotted, The Library Thief is at once a propulsive Gothic mystery and a striking exploration of race, gender, and self-discovery in Victorian England. Sounds great. Just what I was looking for. Sounds great. I got this from Better World Books. I haven't even taken the library stuff off of it yet, but I've got The Last Ones. Some Houses Are Never at Peace by Anita Frank. So this says England, 1917. They're all set in England so far from the county. So England, 1917. Reeling from the death of her fiancé, Stella Markham, welcomes the opportunity to stay with her pregnant sister Madeline at her imposing country mansion, Grayswick. Okay, this is perfect. But she arrives to discover a house of unease and her sister gripped by fear and suspicion. That's what I'm looking for. Before long, strange incidents begin to trouble Stella. Sobbing in the night, little footsteps on the stairs, and as events escalate, she finds herself drawn to the tragic history of the house. Aided by a wounded war veteran, Stella sets about uncovering Grayswick's dark and terrible secrets. Secrets the dead whisper from the other side. It says in the classic tradition of The Woman in Black. So, again, sounds just like what I'm looking for. And then this kind of outlier from my county, House of Cotton by Monica Brashears. So this looks brand new, but it also is a library reject that I got from Better World Books. So The House of Cotton. By the way, I am not sponsored by Better World Books. I just love them. This is 19 years old, broke, and effectively an orphan. Magnolia doesn't have much to look forward to. She feels stuck and haunted by her overdrawn bank account, by her predatory landlord, by the ghost of her late grandmother, Mama Brown. One night, while working at her dead-end gas station job, a mysterious, slick stranger named Cotton walks in and offers to turn Magnolia's luck around with a lucrative modeling job at his family's funeral home. Can you get bigger red flags? Magnolia accepts, but despite things looking up, Magnolia's problems fatten along with her wallet. When Cotton's requests become increasingly weird, that wasn't weird before, Magnolia discovers there's a lot more at stake than just her rent. Sharp as a belted knife, this sly social commentary cuts straight to the bone, revealing the aftermath of the American plantation and what it means to be poor, black, and a woman in the God-fearing South. So, again, like I said, outlier. It is one of my recommendations, and we'll see if it fits the bill. We'll see. We'll see if it is what I was looking for. Now, I have 4 that I will read from my city library. These recommendations come from my city. So we've got Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. This, of the 4 that I've picked from the recommendations given by my city, is the one that most closely resembles, I think, what I asked for. But like I said, it's a very niche kind of reader that they cater to, and so they are a different kind of librarian than the county librarians. The county librarians were like, they gave me the majority of like the classical Gothic 1800s, 1900s kind of feel, and then they pushed me a little bit with this one. The city was like, let's push her, push, and give her one that's a little bit like what she asked for. So here we go. This is the one that's a little bit like what I asked for. This is Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. In a house full of secrets, the nanny hides her own. So again, this looks brand new, but it is a rejected library book that I got from Better World Books. Simmering with menace, Mrs. England is a portrait of an Edwardian marriage, an enthralling tale of men and women, power and control, courage, truth, and the very darkest deception. That sounds intense. It says West Yorkshire, 1904, a young Norland nanny named Ruby May is assigned to a remote estate. So this is lining up. She's assigned to a remote estate to care for the children of a wealthy couple from a powerful mill dynasty. Ruby hopes it will be the fresh start she needs. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. Yet when she arrives at Hardcastle House, she finds the staff is hostile and the lady of the house, Mrs. Lillian England, cold and withdrawn. The only person who seems solicitous is the gentleman of the house. Red flag yet again. Charles England, but in an uncomfortable way. It doesn't take long for Ruby to sense all is not as it seems, that the house holds a dark secret, that there's no such thing as the perfect family. Ruby herself should know, and she would be the last person to pry. After all, she is holding a dark secret of her own. So that's the first one, recommended by my city library. Then we have Lexi Elliott's The Missing Years. Some doors should stay locked. Again, library a reject. Looks brand new. I love Better World books. It says, Alyssa Calder, there's just a lot of stuff to get through before it gets to the actual description. It says, Alyssa Calder has inherited half of a house. The other half belongs to a man who disappeared without a trace 27 years ago, her father, leaving London behind to settle the inheritance from her mother's estate. So I just want to point out, I didn't ask for England. I didn't at any time mention England, and almost all of these are set in England, which I find very interesting. So leaving London behind to settle the inheritance from her mother's estate, Alyssa returns to her childhood home, nestled among the craggy peaks of the Scottish Highlands, joined by the half-sister who is almost a stranger to her. Alyssa cannot escape the claustrophobic feeling that the house itself is watching her. I like this. As if her past hungers to consume her. She also cannot ignore how the neighborhood animals refuse to set foot within the gates of the garden. When the first nightmare intruder shows up, Alyssa fears that the manor's careless, rugged beauty could cost her everything. So it's a contemporary. It is set in England. It does sound gothic. It is about a girl or a woman who finds herself in a place. Next we have Gemma Amour's The Folly. This one says it's a ghost story. It says so right at the top. This moody ghost story enchants. Once again, looks absolutely brand new. Once again, rejected by the library, so that I could buy it for a couple of bucks. The Folly by Gemma Amour. Okay, this says, Morgan always knew her father Owen never murdered her mother. Well, that's a start. And has spent the last 6 years campaigning for his release from prison. Finally, he is set free, but they can no longer live in the house that was last decorated by her mother's blood. This is intense. Salvation comes in the form of a tall, dark, and notorious decorative granite tower on the Cornish coastline known only as The Folly. The owner makes them an offer. Take care of the Folly and you can live there. It's an offer too good to refuse. At first, the Folly is idyllic, but soon a stranger arrives who acts like Morgan's mother, talks like her mother, and wears her dead mother's clothes. Is this stranger hell-bent on vengeance, in touch with her restless mother's spirit itself, or simply just deranged? And most importantly, what exactly happened the night Morgan's mother died? An atmospheric nod to the lighthouse with hints of du Maurier's Rebecca played out on a lonely Cornish backdrop. The Folly is visceral mystery and family drama, a dark examination of love, loyalty, guilt, and possession that draws on the very real horror of betrayal by those closest to us, by those we love the best. All right. And finally, Beware the Woman by Megan Abbott. Again, rejected from the library. All right. So this one says, honey, I just want you to have everything you ever wanted. That's what JC's mom always told her. And JC felt like she finally did. Newly married with a baby on the way, JC and her husband Jed, what are these names? JC and her husband Jed embark on their first road trip together to visit her father, Dr. Ashe, in Michigan's far-flung Upper Peninsula. The moment they arrive at the cottage, snug within the lush woods, JC feels bathed in love by the warm and hospitable Dr. Ashe. if less so by his house manager, the enigmatic Mrs. Brandt. But their Edenic first days take a turn when JC has a health scare. Swiftly, vacation activities are scrapped, and all eyes are on JC's condition. Suddenly, whispers about Jed's long-dead mother and complicated family history seem to eerily impinge upon the present, and JC begins to feel trapped in the cottage, her every move surveyed, her body under the looking glass. But are her fears founded, or is it simply paranoia, or cabin fever, or, as is suggested to her, a stubborn refusal to take necessary precautions? The dense woods surrounding the cottage are full of dangers, but are the greater ones inside. I feel like there's a lot left out of, I feel like that covered a lot of information, but also left out key components of that information. But whatever, I'm there for it. So we've got 8 kind of creepy gothic books that we're going to read for Librarian versus Librarian in the month of June. We've got some makeup reading to do, May and April books that I don't get to in May. And we've got 4 kind of palette cleansers that I would love to read in between some of these darker, gothic, girl arrives at a house and it's creepy stories. I do find it interesting that almost all of these are set in England. Like, how big of an influence has Jane Eyre had on all of us without us really realizing it, that the Gothic novel, that story is going to be set in England. Like, that the books that people recommend to me, they're going to go to and think of an English setting. That's so interesting. Anyway, this is it. This is what we're reading in the month of June. Probably other things too. And I will see you later. Let's go read.